After our last reading, we finished the introduction of The Prince by Machiavelli and the introduction given by Tom Butler Bowden. We won't be reading the sources of said introduction, and now we'll be starting the book written by Niccolò Machiavelli himself, The Prince. Other works by him before we start. Discourses. His commentary on the work of Roman historian Titus Livius, or Livy, that reveals Machiavelli's republican sympathies, completed 1518 or 1519. The Mandrake, a satirical play concerning Florentine society, was written in 1518, published in 1524. The Art of War, treatise in the form of Socratic dialogue, written 1519, 1520, the only historical work or political work to be published in his lifetime, in 1512. The History of Florence, which was commissioned by Cardinal Giulio de' Medici in 1520, completed 1525, published 1532. This is a timeline of the things discussed in his life and in the opening. A bit about the interpreter. And now, the Prince. To start, a dedication to the magnificent Lorenzo di Piero de' Medici. It is customary for such as seek a prince's favour to present themselves before him with those things of theirs which they themselves will value, or in which they perceive him shy to delight. Accordingly, we often see horses, armour, cloth of gold, precious stones, and the like costly gifts offered to princes as worthy of their greatness, desiring in like manner to approach your magnificence with some token of my devotion. I have found among my possessions none that I so much prize and esteem as a knowledge of the actions of great men, acquired in the course of a long experience of modern affairs and continual study of antiquity. This knowledge, most carefully and patiently pondered over and sifted by me, and now reduced into this little book, I send to your magnificence. And though I deem the work unworthy of your greatness, yet I am bold enough to hope that your courtesy will dispose you to accept it, considering that I can offer you no better gift than the means of mastering, in a very brief time, all that in the course of so many years, and that the cost of so many hardships and dangers, I have learned and know. This work I have not adorned or applied with swelling and high-owned language, or any other those extrinsic attractions and allurements with which many authors are wont to set off and grace their writings, since it is in my desire that it should either pass wholly unhonoured, or that the truth of its matter and the importance of its subjects should alone recommend it. Nor would I have thought the presumption that a person of very mean and humble station would venture to discourse and lay down rules concerning the government of princes. For as those who make maps of countries place themselves low down in the plains to study the character of mountains and elevated lands, and place themselves high upon the mountains to get a better view of the plains, so in like manner, to understand the people, a man should be a prince, and to have a clear notion of princes, he should belong to the people. Let your magnificence then accept this little gift in the spirit in which I offer it, wherein if you diligently read and study it, you will recognise my extreme desire that you should attain to the eminence which Princedoms are either hereditary, in which sovereignty is derived through an ancient line of ancestors, or there are new. New princedoms are either wholly new, as that of Milan to Francesco Sforza, or they are like limbs joined onto the hereditary position of its prince who acquires them, as the kingdom of Naples to the dominions of the king of Spain. The states thus acquired have either been used to live under a prince or have been free, and he who acquires them does so by either his own arms or by the arms of others, and either by good fortune or by merit. Chapter 2 of Hereditary Princedoms. If republics I shall not now speak, having elsewhere spoken of them at length. Here I shall treat exclusively of princedoms, and filling in the outline above traced out, shall proceed to examine how such states are to be governed and maintained. I say then, that hereditary states, accustomed to the family of their prince, are maintained far less difficulty than new states, since all that is required is that the prince shall not depart from the customs and practices of his ancestors, trusting for the rest to deal with events as they arise. So if an hereditary prince be of merely average competence, he will always maintain himself in his princedom, unless deprived of it by some extraordinary irresistible force, and even if so deprived will recover, should any, even the least, mission overtake the usurper. We have in Italy an example of this in the Duke of Ferrara, who never could have withstood the attacks of the Venetians in 1484, nor of Pope Julius in 1510, had not his authority in the state been consolidated by time. For since a prince by birth has fewer occasions and less need to give offence, he ought to be better loved, and will naturally be popular with his subjects, unless outrageous vices make him odious. Moreover, the very antiquity and continuance of his rule will efface the memories and causes which lead to innovation, for one change always leaves a dovetail into which another will fit. Chapter 3 of Mixed Princedoms. But in new princedoms difficulties abound, and first, if the princedom be not worthy, but joined unto the ancient dominion of the prince, so as to form them, what may be termed a mixed princedom. Changes will come from a cause common to all new states, namely that men, thinking to better their condition, are always ready to change masters, and in this expectation will take up arms against any ruler. But they deceive themselves, and find afterwards by experience that they are worse off before. This again results naturally and necessarily from the circumstance that the prince cannot avoid giving offence to his new subjects, either in respect of his troops he quarters on them, or of some of the other on the numberless vexations attendant on a new acquisition. And in this way you may find that you have enemies in all of those whom you have injured in seizing the princedom, yet cannot keep the friendship of those who helped you gain it, since you can neither reward them as they expect, nor yet be under obligations to them, use violent remedies against them. For however strong you may be in respect of your army, it is essential that in entering a new province you should was able with his own forces to take it from him. For the very people who had opened the gate to the French king when they found themselves deceived in their expectations and hopes of future benefits, could not put up with the insolence of their new ruler. True, it is that when a state rebels and is again got under, it will not afterwards be lost so easily, for the prince, using the rebellion as a pretext, will not scruple to secure himself by punishing the guilty, bringing the suspected to trial, and otherwise strengthening his position in points where it was weak. So that if to recover Milan from the French it was enough on the first occasion, that Duke Ludovico should raise alarms on the frontiers to wrestle it from them a second time. The whole world had to be ranged against them, and their armies destroyed and driven out of Italy. And this, for the reasons above mentioned, and yet, for a second time, Milan was lost to the king. The general causes of this first loss have been shown. It remains to know the causes of the second, and to point out the remedies which the French king had, or which might have been used by another in like circumstances to maintain his conquest more successfully than he did. I say then that those states which upon their acquisition are joined to the ancient dominus of the prince who acquires them are either to the same province and tongue as the people of those dominions, or they are not. When they are, there is a great ease in retaining them, especially when they have not been accustomed to live in freedom. To hold them securely, it is enough to have rooted out the line of the reigning prince, because if in another respects the old condition of things be continued, and there be discordance in their customs, men live peaceably with one another, as we see to have been in the case in Brittany, Burgundy, Gascony, and Normandy, which have so long been united to France. For although there be some slight differences in their languages, their customs are similar, and they can easily get on together. He, therefore, who acquires such a state, if he means to keep it, must see two things first: that the blood of the ancient line of princes be destroyed; second, that no change be made in respect of laws or taxes, for in this way the newly acquired state speedily becomes incorporated with hereditary. But when states are acquired in a country differing in language, usages and laws, difficulties multiply, and great good fortune as well as action is needed to overcome them. One of the best and most efficacious methods for dealing with such a state is for the prince who acquires it to go and dwell there in person, since this will tend to make his tenure more secure and lasting. This course has been followed by the Turk with regard to Greece, who had he not, in addition to all his other precautions for securing the province himself come to live in it, he never have kept his hold of it. He never could have kept his hold. For when you are on the spot, disorders are detected in their beginnings, and remedies can be readily applied. But when you are at a distance, they are not heard of until they have gathered strength, and in the case, it's past cure. Moreover, the province in which you take up your abode is not pillaged by your officers. The people are pleased to have ready recourse to their prince, and have all the more reason, if they are well disposed to love, if disaffected to fear him. A foreign enemy desiring to attack the state would be cautious how he did so. In short, where the prince resides in person, it will be extremely difficult to oust him. Another excellent expedient is to send colonies into one or two places, and the only person to whom he gives offence are those whom he deprives of their fields and houses to bestow them to the new inhabitants. Those who are thus injured form but a small part of the community, and remaining scattered and poor can never become dangerous. All others, being left unmolested, are in consequence easily quieted, and at the same time are afraid to make a false move, lest they share the fate of those who have been deprived of their possessions. In few words, these colonies cost less than soldiers. In few words, these colonies cost less than soldiers, are more faithful, and give less offence, while those who are offended, being, as I have said, poor and dispersed, cannot hurt. And let it here be noted that men are either to be kindly treated or to be utterly crushed, since they can revenge lighter injuries but not graver. Therefore, the injury we do to a man should be of a sort to leave no fear of reprisals. But if instead of colonies you send troops, the cost is vastly greater, and the whole revenues of the country are spent in guarding it, so that the gain becomes a loss, and much deeper offence is given, since in shifting the quarters of your soldiers from place to place, the whole country suffers hardship, in which, as all feel, all are made enemies, and enemies who remaining, although vanquished in their own homes, have power to hurt in every way. Therefore, this mode of defence is as disadvantageous as that by colonising is useful. The prince who establishes himself in a province whose laws and language differ from those of his own people ought also to make himself the head and protector of his feebler neighbours, and endeavour to weaken the stronger, and must see that by no accident shall any other stranger as powerful as himself find an entrance there, for it will always happen that some such person will be called in by those of a province who are discontinued either through ambition or fear, as we see of old the Romans brought into Greece by the Aetolians, and in every other country that they entered invited there by its inhabitants. And the usual course of things is that so soon as a formidable stranger enters the province, all the weaker powers side with them. Moved thereto by ill will, they bear towards him who has hitherto kept them in subjugation, so that in respect of the lesser powers no trouble is needed to gain them over, for at once together and of their own accord they throw in their lot with the government of the stranger. The new prince therefore has only to see that they do not increase too much in strength, and with his own forces aided by their goodwill can easily subdue any who are powerful, so as to remain supreme in province. He who does not manage this matter will soon lose whatever he has gained, and while he retains it will find it endless troubles and annoyances. In dealing with the countries of which they took possession, the Romans diligently followed the methods I have described. They planned colonies, consolated weaker powers without adding to their strength, humbled the great, and never suffered a formidable stranger to acquire influence. A simple example will suffice to show this. In Greece, the Romans took the Achaeans and Aetolians into their pay. The Macedonian monarchy was humbled. Antiochus was driven out, but the services of the Achaeans and Aetolians never attained for them any addition to their power. persuasions of the part of Philip could induce the Romans to be friends on the conditions of sparing him humiliation. Philip was the king of Macedonia from 238 to 179 BC, and defeated by the Romans at Cynoscephalae in 197 BC. The Achaeans were allied with Macedon, while the Aetolians believed themselves to the Roman forces. And in thus acting, the Romans did as all wise rulers should do. You have to consider not only present difficulties, but also future, against which they must use all diligence to provide. For these, if they be foreseen, or yet remote, admit of easy remedy. But if their approach to be awaited, they are already. Past cure. The disorder having become hopeless, realizing that the physicians tells of heretic fever, that in its beginning it is easy to cure but hard to recognize, whereas after a time, not having been detected and treated at the first, it becomes easy to recognize but impossible to cure. It's quite a large section of mixed kingdoms. I think we'll leave it at page 23 of mixed princedoms for now. I plan on finishing this book. It's very. Just going to talk about the actual hardback. It's a very beautiful book. It's very sleek design. It reads The Prince, Niccolò Machiavelli, and we can see at the bottom the Capstone Classic logo just here. It's nice. It tells nothing of Tumble the Bowden on the cover. It stays nice and discreet. Keeps true to its writer. There's a collection of Capstone Classics that I might read on the channel, with The Prince being the first. Things such as The Republic, The Art of War, some other things